Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Current Church. Yes, good morning there. Yeah, right down here in front row. Good morning. Over there, good morning. Hey, my name is Ryan James, and I'm the Adult Ministries Director here at Current Church. Sometimes I'm a little weird. Actually, that's all the time I'm a little weird. So it's so great to see you guys here today. I'm especially in a great mood today, because I got to watch Chiefs football yesterday. I know the outcome isn't what we all want, but it's a great feeling to be able to watch Chiefs football again. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but thank you. I sure am in a great mood about it. Hey, we have a great service lined up for you guys today. If this is your first time here, I would like to echo the chorus as you came through here and say welcome. I'm so glad you made it here and spend your time with us today, this morning at the theaters. So if this is your first time here, we want to encourage and equip people to become a follower of Jesus, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. Doesn't matter if you've been a Jesus follower your entire life. It doesn't even matter if you're not a Jesus follower. Wherever you're at, we want to meet you there. And we do things by saying that, you know what, we are for St. Joseph in this church. We want to be for this community as much as possible. We want to do amazing things in this community, which means we want to do amazing things for you, who you're sitting by, and who you're pumping gas to at the gas station. Like, we want to be there for everyone. And so if you want to go to fill out this form here and tell us a little bit about yourself, we'll just send you $5 to a local patron here in St. Joseph that you can go and enjoy a cup of coffee at, okay? But the biggest thing is we want to partner with some nonprofits here in St. Joseph. And so you'll actually receive an email from us telling you a little bit about those nonprofits. If you send us an email back, we're going to send $5 on your behalf to that nonprofit organization because they're doing a killing job here in St. Joseph. Hey, like I said earlier, we have a great service lined up for you guys today. I know you guys rushed out of here and you hurried out last week, even though we made our Hurried all week. We're finishing up Hurried today. So if you guys will, hurry up and stand up. We're going to sing a few songs today. Thanks.
I believe there's one salvation, one doorway that leads to life, one redemption, one confession. I believe in the name of Jesus Christ. Come on, anybody with me this morning? I believe in crucifixion. By His blood I have been set free. I believe in resurrection. Hallelujah, His life, His death's defeat. Come on, let's sing this out together. All praise to God the Father. All praise to Christ the Son. All praise to the Holy Spirit. Our God has overcome. The King who was and is and evermore will be. In Jesus' mighty name, I believe. I believe in the hope of heaven. He's preparing a place for me, far beyond what hearts imagine, ears have heard or eyes have seen. I believe that day is coming. He's returning to claim His bride. Light the altar, keep it burning. See the Lamb who rose a roaring light. All praise to God the Father. All praise to Christ the Son. All praise to the Holy Spirit. Our God has overcome. The King who was and is and evermore will be. In Jesus' mighty name,
never be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. How could I ever walk away from the one who saved my life?
No, I'll never be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. How could I ever walk away from the one who saved my life? Oh no, I'll never be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. How could I ever walk away from the one who saved my life? Yeah. All praise to God the Father, all praise to Christ the Son, all praise to the Holy Spirit. Our God has overcome. The King who was and is and evermore will be. In Jesus' mighty name I believe. Yeah. All praise to God the Father, all praise to Christ the Son, all praise to the Holy Spirit. Our God has overcome. The King who was and is and evermore will be. In Jesus' mighty name I believe. In Jesus' mighty name I believe. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe. Listen, so last week we started a new series together called Advice for the Hurried Life. We're talking about how to navigate the busyness of life and the hurry of life. And I think one of the biggest reasons that we tend to hurry, we're going to talk about this a little bit more today, but one of the biggest reasons that we tend to have hurry take over in our lives is because a lot of times, like anytime there's a space, a gap, you know, some margin there, we tend to fill it with something. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like anytime that our schedules aren't busy or we don't have that much to do, like we find stuff to do. It's just kind of our human nature. It's kind of culture driving us to do that. And that's really kind of the opposite of who Jesus was and what Jesus modeled for us. And in fact, the way of Jesus was an unhurried, slower life. We're going to talk about that a little bit more today too. But the reason I bring it up is because I really believe that the way of Jesus and following him is a much better way for us to live. And surrendering our lives to him is a much better way to live. In fact, we say that all the time around here, that we believe that following Jesus will make your life better and it'll make you better at life. And so we're going to sing a song here that is new to us. We've never done it here at Current. It's not necessarily a new song, but we haven't done it here before. And it's all about that. It's about making room, creating margin, creating space for God to move in our lives and surrendering our lives to him. In fact, at one point in the song, we're going to sing that your way is better. God, your way is better. The way of Jesus is better. That's what we're going to sing here in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to sing another song about surrender. It's one that maybe you're familiar with. You might not be familiar with it, but it's an old hymn. It's one that I grew up singing for most of my life. I've sung it many times in my life. And so for many of you, this might be familiar. And if it's not, the lyrics will be on screen for you to sing along with me. And so we're just going to sing this to kind of set this next song up for you, that Riley's going to lead us here in just a moment. So I just want to invite you to sing this song and really mean these words and surrender those gaps and those moments to Jesus today. All to Jesus I surrender, all to him I freely give. I will ever love and trust him in his presence daily live. I surrender. And I surrender all. And I surrender surrender all.
Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to.
Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender.
And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Have your way, Jesus.
Shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. I will make room
For you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to.
That's so good. You know what? You guys can be seated real quick. maybe the message today, as Ben's going to give the second part of talking about hurry, I can learn a thing or two so I don't hurry up on the stage like I did earlier, right? No, I really was excited to be up here. I'm excited to talk today about what I'm about to talk about because it's something I'm very passionate about. If you guys been here for a while, even if you haven't been, if this is your first time, you can expect to hear me say and hear others up here say over and over that we are for St. Joseph. And I really, really mean that. Like, I want to be a church, and we all want this to be a church, that if this was no longer a church, the community of St. Joseph would say, hey, I miss Current Church. Doesn't matter if they're Jesus followers, doesn't matter if they're a different religion, doesn't matter if they believe in God at all. I want to be here for this community, and I think, especially those of you, I look out and I see that you're coming week after week, I feel like you have to say it, like you're passionate about it too, because we talk about it so much here. So we have a lot of things planned for this upcoming school year, for this semester coming up. And I want you guys to be involved in it just as much as the people sitting next to you are, just as much as we are up here. So I want to give you guys a chance today as we prepare for what we're going to be doing. And we do have a lot of outreach things we're going to be doing in St. Joseph this fall. So if you want to get involved, there's going to be a QR code on the screen behind me that'll take you to our serve page. And you can be involved just by serving here in the mornings. If you have musical talents, you can be up here. If you like greeting people, if you like talking to people, we could use greeters at the doors. If you love children, if you love spending time with kids, then we have two different environments that meet. And in fact, we actually have our students' environment is starting back up here in a few weeks. So we have countless things that could be right for you. We even have community groups that are going to be starting up next month. And we need leaders. We need people that want to lead a community group of people. So whatever it is, I want to give you a chance to get involved so that you can help this church be for St. Joseph. Because I believe that's what Jesus wants. So before we get into the message today, I also want to give you guys an opportunity to continue giving, because that is another way that you can connect, right? That is another way you can connect. If this is your first time, I want to say this real quick before you guys try to give. This is your first time here. I don't want you to give anything. Because if this is your first time here, you've heard me already talk about how we are for St. Joseph, which means that we're for you, which means that this service is a gift to you. We don't want you to give a thing today. Please don't. Let this be a gift to you. So if you want to scan the QR code up here, and if you would like to continue your giving, you can enter in recurring giving. And we also have a box that's on one of the pillars out in the hallway that if you want to give a dollar donation to there, you can do that as well out there. Hey, we're about to get into our second part of learning not to be in a hurry so much. So if you guys will, turn your eyes to the screen.
Well, good morning, everybody. As Ryan said, I also want to welcome you to Current today. So glad you guys made it. My name's Ben. I'm the lead pastor here. If we haven't had a chance to meet in the past, I'd love that opportunity to meet you today, perhaps out in the hall on our as soon as service is over. So to get our time started, to get together today, what I want to do is I want to actually invite you to imagine with me, just kind of dream for a moment, imagine Imagine that we could go back in time to the 1950s. We could all go back together. We're going to go back to the 1950s with one another, travel back to then. But imagine this, along with this time travel invention, we also have the ability to take with us to the 1950s all of our current technology exactly as it exists today. Imagine that with me for just a moment, okay? So we show up to a friend's house back in the 1950s. We're going to spend a weekend with them today. And as we show up to their house, I imagine the first thing they're probably thinking is, oh my goodness, how am I going to host all of these people for a weekend? I probably need to go out and get some groceries. To which we would say, no, listen, you don't have to go get groceries. Guess what? There's an app for that. Like there's an app that you can actually order groceries and those groceries will be delivered to your house like in an hour from now. To which they would go, what's an app? To which we would go, well, that's this thing that you have on your cell phone. And then they would go, what's a cell phone? And we would go, well, it's this device you carry around with you. It's connected to the internet. And they're like, what's the internet? So after you get that all out of the way, you explain all of that to them. Now it's like, okay, don't worry. There's an app. We'll just order groceries. You don't have to go out. And they could be like, well, but listen, I need to actually get out anyway. There's some things and some errands I need to run. I need to run by the bank and deposit some checks. To which we would go, what's a check? That was a joke, but we all know what a check is. I hope you don't, or I hope you know what a check is. But anyway, they'd be like, I got to run to the bank. I got to deposit some checks. And my husband, he's not been feeling well. So we'll just go run to the doctor real quick and see if we can get that antibiotic prescription that we've been wanting to get. To which you would go, no, listen, you don't have to go do those things either. There's an app for that as well. Now you can actually go and like you can deposit checks to your bank, take care of all of your banking right from the comfort of your own home. And guess what? Your husband doesn't have to go to the doctor to get this prescription. You can now have a video call with your doctor who will prescribe that antibiotic for you, which, by the way, can now be delivered to your door for you as well. They're like, wow. So I don't have to get out. Well, okay. Well, I think I have enough food in the house to prepare groceries for all of us for now, at least for tonight's meal. So I'll just go ahead and I'll start preparing that meal. To which you can go, no, you don't have to do that either. You can actually, with the press of a few buttons, you can order food freshly made from a restaurant across town to your doorstep in the next 30 minutes. And they'd be like, okay, well, then I guess I'll fill my time with some other things. I mean, I wasn't expecting guests, so my house isn't ready. So I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, wash my laundry by hand real quick and then go hang the laundry out on the line to dry. And you could be like, no, you don't have to do that either. There's machines now that will wash your laundry and dry it for you. And those dishes that you see in the sink that you feel like you need to wash in order to, host all of us to have dinner for your guests, you don't have to wash those either. There's a machine now that will wash your dishes for you. And you don't even have to worry about vacuuming the floors. See those floors that you thought you needed to vacuum because you got guests in your house now? There's a robot now that will do that for you. It's incredible. I imagine at that point they would probably be feeling a little overwhelmed. They'd be like, whew, is it getting warm in here? I feel like it's getting warm in here with all this new information coming at me. We probably need to open some windows, let in some cool air. And then you could be like, no, you don't have to do that either. We have this thing now called central air and central heat. With the press of a button, your house can be set to whatever temperature you want it to be set to. It's amazing. And you actually don't even have to press any buttons. It's really cool. Watch this. Alexa, set the temperature to whatever temperature I want. To which then they'd be like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. Like the achievements you've achieved, they're just amazing. We should celebrate with some music. I'll go put on some records and we'll have a party. And you can go, no, you don't even have to do that. Watch this. Alexa. And you can play any song that's ever been made ever from the comfort of your couch just by using your own voice. Now, I imagine if that was realistic, if that was actually possible for us to do, I imagine that probably they would respond to us with something along the lines of, wow, you must have so much more time. I mean, you guys have eliminated 80% of everything that we do every day and every week. You must have so much more time. In 2024, you guys must be so much more relaxed and stress-free. You must be getting everything done in your lives with time to spare. Imagine their shock when you tell them, nope. No, we're not less stressed. We don't have more time. In fact, we are the most stressed we've ever been. We have the least amount of time that we've ever had. We are the busiest that we have ever been. Imagine their shock when you tell them, hey, if I could take you back with me to 2024 and you were to ask people in 2024 would tell you, we are busy. To which that person would go, busy with what? I mean, you've eliminated pretty much everything that we do. What could you possibly be busy with? Which is a fantastic question. And that's why we're going to talk about it today as part 2 of our series. So last week we introduced the series by talking about the difference between busy and hurry. We talked about the fact that busy is an activity. They're the things that we're doing. We can be busy, and busyness is not necessarily a bad thing when it's things that matter, right? Busy is not necessarily a bad thing when it's things that we've chosen to do, right? But hurry is the thing that can kind of creep in on the heels or in the midst of busyness. Hurry creeps in, and hurry begins to take over our lives. We talked last week that busyness is inevitable. All of us are going to be busy. It doesn't matter what season of life you're in. You got young kids, teenagers, you're a young adult, you have no kids at home, you're an empty nester. All of us are going to be busy. It's inevitable. But hurry is an optional choice. We defined hurry for us for the series last week as an unhealthy preoccupation with a future time, a future place, or a future outcome. Hurry is when we're thinking about a moment in the future, or we're thinking about a location that we want to be in the future, or we're thinking about a particular outcome in the future that we are not presently, currently sitting in. It's when we want something sooner than is realistic or sooner than possible. It's when we try to get something in our lives that's sooner than realistic or sooner than possible. And I made this suggestion to us last week, and I hope that it's maybe kind of been sitting in the back of your mind all week long this week, that hurry is not your friend. Hurry is not your friend trying to help get you through life successfully. Hurry is not like the co-pilot of your vehicle that's sitting there helping you navigate life. Hurry, when it comes into your life, it takes over. It becomes the pilot. Hurry, when it comes in, is not a coworker that's helping you get things done. Hurry is your boss that's demanding you get things done. Also last week, I told a story of a young pastor named John Ortberg who, when he was young and had young kids, and he was a husband to his wife, and he was pastoring a church. He was trying to lead a church while doing all of these things in his life, and he began to experience burnout, and he was struggling. He reached out to his mentor, a good friend of his named Dallas Willard, and said, Dallas, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to grow spiritually? What do I have to do to become the me that I want to be? And he says that Dallas responded to him with this, that John, you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. And Dallas went on in that conversation to say that hurry is the great enemy of our spiritual lives today, that we have to get rid of hurry in our lives. It's the great enemy of our lives. We talked last week about the fruit of the Spirit, how those of us that are following Jesus, we should be expressing on the outside the Spirit that's on the inside of us through the fruit of the Spirit, things like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I suggested that hurry last week, and I think this is so real, that hurry is one of those things that will rot that fruit in your life. And we all want those things. Whether you're a Jesus follower or not, we all want more love and more joy and more peace and patience and kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control in our lives. We all want more of those things. So John's like, okay, so I got to ruthlessly eliminate hurry from my life. What else? And Dallas is like, there is nothing else. That's it. That's what you have to do. You have to ruthlessly eliminate hurry. And I love this word, ruthlessly. The reason that we're saying that you have to ruthlessly eliminate it is because hurry will not just go away, right? You know this. Hurry will not just go away easily in our lives. We might choose to fight it for a day. We might choose to fight it for an hour. We might be strong enough to fight it for an entire week or for a few weeks through the course of a series. But eventually hurry is going to come right back if we don't consistently, ruthlessly eliminate it from our lives. And so throughout this series, we're talking about how do we ruthlessly eliminate hurry from our lives. And so we're giving you some advice to do that. Last week I gave you the first piece of advice, which was to slow down. And I gave you some practical ideas to kind of help you slow down in your life. Things like choosing the longest line, driving the speed limit, saying things like, hey, you go ahead, and welcoming interruptions. Now, I don't know about you, but I talked about these things last week, and so they were present on my mind. And then while I'm trying to practice these things, I got hit with all 4 of them within 24 hours of church last week. It's crazy. So Monday morning, I get up with our younger kids. I decided to take them to Chiefs training camp. So we're heading on our way to Chiefs training camp on Monday morning. And I'm telling you, like first thing, the moment I pull onto the belt, I had somebody, you guys know what I'm talking about, I had somebody turning left onto the belt, pull out in front of me. Like it was as if they didn't even see me. They were that close. I had to slam on my brakes to avoid hitting them. And in that moment, I thought to myself, oh yeah, sure, you go ahead, right? But not the way that I was supposed to be thinking, you go ahead in that moment. And they proceeded, of course, to get in front of me and start driving 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, which was driving me insane. And I couldn't get around them because I had another car also driving 10 miles an hour under the speed limit beside me. You can see how well I was practicing these things, first thing Monday morning. And I had to turn left at the stoplight that was coming up. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. And they ended up making me, I just missed turning left at that stoplight. And you guys know how it is on the belt. When you miss a light, you sit there for the next 7 minutes, it feels like. And so I sat there and I waited for the light. And, we eventually made it to training camp. And then later on our way home, I'm approaching a stoplight, and I had a moment to actually think through this. As I'm approaching the stoplight, there's a dump truck in the left lane. And I knew that at the next light, I was going to be turning left. And so I knew that I kind of needed this lane, but there's a dump truck. And beside him was like this muscle truck. And I'm like, I know which one of these guys is going to go faster, Like this guy is going to go faster. And so I got into the right lane thinking I'm going to have all the time in the world to get around this dump truck. Light turns green. They both take off. And I kid you not, they both drive 20 in a 30 for about 3 blocks to the next light until right before the light, the muscle truck guns it and pulls over in front of the dump truck, and I had to hit my brakes and pull behind it. And I thought to myself in that moment, if I had just chosen what was the longer line in the first place, like I encouraged all of you to do last week, then I wouldn't have been frustrated in those moments. You know what I'm saying? It was interesting that night, my 2 older kids were having let's call it a discussion in the kitchen with one another. And one of them says to the other one, you clearly did not listen to Dad's message yesterday because if you did, you would be practicing more patience right now. So just so you know, this series is starting fights in my own home. And so we're trying to, figure that out. It's causing internal fights in me. So here's my question for you. Did any of you guys try any of these this week? Let's just show of hands. Anybody try any of these this week? Think about it. Yeah, I didn't think so. You know why? Because they stink. They're terrible. But I'm telling you, these things, I know they're crazy, I know they're dumb, but I'm telling you, they're good. They're good things to help you fight back against hurry. And I would venture to guess that if any of you did actually try any of these things this week, guess what? You still got everything done. You still got to all the important things. You're here this morning. You're fully dressed. You're mostly dressed. You made it. Life went on. These things right here they're not about making your life less busy. It's about helping your heart and your mind be less hurried in the midst of all the busyness. These things right here are about taking control back in your life. And if you tried to practice these things this week, I would venture to guess that it was very hard. It was very difficult because these things take time. They take a lot of effort. They take a lot of work. And if after putting a lot of time and a lot of work and weeks, maybe even months of work and effort into this, if these things are still difficult for you, it should actually be an alert system in your mind that, hey, something's off. Hurry is in charge in my life. I got to do something about this. So today we're going to talk about the second piece of advice for your hurried life, for our hurried lives today. And in order to kind of set that up to get us going, the second piece of advice, I want to actually introduce to you or talk about a word in our English language that it's an uncommon word. We don't say it a whole lot. You probably don't use this word very often because you might not even really know what it means. But that word in the English language is this: Yeah, that's pronounced no. Can we just, everyone say that word out loud together? You ready? 1, 2, 3. No. Yes, very good. Are you saying no to saying no? Is that what's happening over here on my left? Yeah, so the second piece of advice for your hurried life we're going to talk about today is say no. And I know that that sounds like a very strange piece of advice. You might be wondering, Ben, why in the world are you telling us to say no? And here's why. Because for all of us in this room, because we're all human beings, okay? We are all yes machines. We say yes to everything all the time. We have opportunities come our way all the time. We have invites come our way all the time. We have commitments come our way all the time. They are constantly coming into our lives, and we say yes to more and more, and we take on more and more and more. And by the way, today in our culture, this is more possible than ever to take on more and more and say yes more and more today. In fact, our culture is driving us. Culture is driving you to fill up every single second. We talked about this just a little bit ago in our service. Culture is driving you, and our human nature is driving you to fill up every second, every moment, every gap, every piece of margin in our lives. I mean, imagine with me for just a moment another scenario here. Imagine that tomorrow is not Monday. Imagine that tomorrow is what we'll call an 8th day. That across the entire world, we all decide tomorrow's not Monday, it's just going to be an 8th day of this particular week. Everything that you had scheduled, it's gone. All going into work tomorrow, you don't have to do that. All those appointments that you had, you don't have to do that. Imagine that tomorrow's an 8th day to just rest and relax. And now imagine for just a moment that we had an 8th day of the week every week. That every week we now have an 8th day to just relax. Now, I would venture to guess that at least for a brief moment, there might have been, as I said that, there might have been like some relief. Imagine that relief if tomorrow was just an 8th day with nothing on the calendar. Imagine that weight that's lifted from you. But here's the problem. Unless we decide to make some sort of drastic change in our lives, eventually we would begin to fill all of those 8th days, just like we fill every other day of the week. We would fill those days up within a few weeks, maybe at most a couple months, we would fill those days as well. And that relief that you felt for just that brief moment would be gone. In fact, we would end up, if we had an 8-day week, we would actually end up being even more tired. We would be even more burned out. We would be even more afraid than we currently are because we are yes machines. And some of those things that we say yes to are really good things. They're things we should say yes to. We should absolutely live life and enjoy life. We should say yes to some of the things that we do that are good things in our lives. There are things that we do that matter. There are some things that you do like, coming to church and being involved in church, those things that drive the kingdom of God in our community and in the world, those things matter. You should absolutely say yes. There are some good things in your life that you should say yes to, but there are also some things that we say yes to that are bad. And there's three key reasons, there's a lot more, but there's 3 key reasons that I think we say yes to things that we shouldn't say yes to. One of those reasons we say yes to things is because we're trying to please people, Well, I don't want to disappoint this person. I don't want to let this person down. I feel like I have to in order to keep my job, whatever. I feel like I have to do this in order to keep my friends. We're trying to please people. Another reason that we tend to say yes to things that we shouldn't say yes to is we're trying to validate ourselves, right? Every single one of us want to feel like we matter, like our lives are making a difference, like what we're doing is driving some sort of change in the world. We want to actually feel like our lives mean something, so we do it to validate ourselves. Another reason we tend to say yes to things that come our way is this thing called FOMO. Anybody ever heard of FOMO? Stands for fear of missing out. We say yes because we're afraid of missing out on things, right? There's a lot of FOMO in NOMO. I just thought of that this week. Northern Missouri, you got it. Thanks. A lot of FOMO around here because we don't want to miss out on things. So we say yes to things that we shouldn't say yes to, and we fill up our calendar and we fill up our task list. And when we say yes to things for that reason, what we're doing is we're opening the door of our lives to hurry. and it's up to you to say no. I mentioned this book last week by John Mark Comer called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And in it, this is what he says. He says, every yes we say is 1,000 no's. Every activity we give our time to is 1,000 other activities that we can't give our time to. And I believe the answer to this for you and for me, I believe the answer to this has been modeled for us in Jesus. I believe that following Jesus is the best way that we could possibly live our lives. And I believe it's been modeled for us. I love what Jesus says in Matthew. He tells us, hey, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. Does anybody in this room feel weary and burdened? Jesus says, come to me and I'll give you rest. Now, most of the time when we think of the word rest, when you think of the word rest, when I think of the word rest, we think like no work, like I'm not busy anymore. I'm not constantly doing things. That's what we think of when we think of rest, like no work. We're just relaxed. We're, sitting. We're at ease. But it's interesting. I love the next 3 words that Jesus says here. It says, take my yoke upon you. Do you guys know what a yoke is? We talked about this a few months ago as part of another series that we did. Do you know what a yoke is? A yoke is work. A yoke is intended to do manual labor. A yoke is when 2 oxen are paired together to go manually, hard work, plow a field together. Jesus is like, hey, I want you to take my work upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke, Jesus says, my work is easy, and my burden is light. You know what I find really interesting about this verse and what Jesus said here? Notice that Jesus does not offer you and Jesus does not offer me an escape from our busyness. He doesn't offer us an escape from the work. Instead, what he offers us is equipment to do it. He offers us equipment with Jesus. Jesus helping us do the heavy lifting at Jesus' slow, unhurried pace. I mean, the way of Jesus, the life of Jesus that he modeled for us to live, we're supposed to live the way Jesus lived, and that way that he lived is so much better. I mean, can you imagine, could you imagine a Jesus, if you read and follow him through the Gospels, could you imagine a Jesus that is like, I just had so much to do today, it was so crazy, and I'm so busy, I cannot wait to get in my tub and have a glass of wine later. For real. Like, can you picture that Jesus? No. If you guys want to experience the life of Jesus, you're going to have to adopt his lifestyle. But what we often want to do is we want that life of Jesus, but we don't want to adopt his way of living in order to get it. A great example of that, his way of living, is found in Mark chapter 1. Jesus is in the area of Capernaum, which was kind of his adopted home base. It's like the place that he considered home throughout his ministry. He's hanging out in Capernaum. He spent like the entire day teaching people and performing miracles. It's been awesome. People are like, this is incredibly amazing, and he's been doing it all day. It goes late into the night. And if there was ever a day for Jesus to sleep in, this was probably the one. But that's not what Jesus does. We're told by Mark that very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, which is very interesting. No alarm clocks. I mean, what in the world woke him up while it was still dark after being up late into the night, doing all this ministry? We're told that he left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. He spent time with his Father, which, by the way, if Jesus needed time with his Father, you and I probably need time with our Father as well. So here's Jesus. He goes off to this solitary place. He's probably up into the mountains somewhere. He's probably found a mountain trail. He's up there just kind of hanging out and he's praying. And then the disciples, they had a really long day yesterday helping Jesus as well, so they're sleeping in at this point, right? But when they wake up, they realize, like, hey, Jesus is gone. Like, he's gone. And so they start going door to door. They're like, hey, have you seen Jesus? Have you seen Jesus? Anybody know where Jesus is? We have no idea where he went. Have you seen Jesus? Right? So we're told that Simon, also known as Peter, and his companions, they went to look for Jesus. And when they found him, they exclaimed, everyone is looking for you. So the reason that they said this is because, again, I mean, when they couldn't find Jesus, they're going around asking people, have you seen him? And I imagine those people were probably like, I haven't seen him, but if you find him, like, let us know, because we'd like to come to you, or even better, like, bring him back to us. That would be great. Like, bring him here, because, like, we want more of what was happening yesterday. In fact, this statement here, everyone is looking for you, Jesus, isn't just simply a statement like, hey, Jesus, everybody's looking for you. Think of this as like a request. Hey, Jesus, everyone's looking for you. Everyone wants you to come back. Everybody wants you to come back to Capernaum and continue that work, that ministry, those miracles you were doing. They're like, we got more miracles that we need performed. They're like, come back, right? The things that Jesus was doing were good things. This was not a bad invitation. Jesus, come continue to do these good things. But interestingly, Jesus says no. This is how he says his no. He said to them, let us go on to the next towns, that I may preach there also. Essentially, what Jesus is saying here is he's saying no to Capernaum. And I know that, like, when you read this, or if you've read this before, perhaps, you might have just read right over this. This might not have been a big deal to you, but can you think about, like, for just a moment, put yourself in the shoes of the people of Capernaum for just a second here? I mean, they would have possibly been offended. They certainly would have been disappointed. There's no question to that. And if Jesus was interested in pleasing people, if he was interested in pleasing the people of Capernaum, or if Jesus was interested in seeking some validation for his ministry or for his life, or if Jesus was afraid of missing out of things in Capernaum, he would not have said no in this moment. But he says, no, I'm not going back to Capernaum. And his reason, the thing that drove that no, was this next thing that he says, which really is kind of our principle for today. He says, let's go to the next towns that I may preach there also, for that is why I've come. Jesus was able to say no because he knew what he had already said yes to. Jesus knew what his mission was. Jesus knew what his purpose was. He knew what his why for being on this earth was. He didn't need to please people. He didn't need any self-validation. He wasn't afraid of missing out on things. He knew what he had already said yes to. And that was able to drive his no. There's a book that came out a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but probably 10 years or so ago, I would guess. I read it about 10 years ago. It's called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And I read it in a season of my life where I really needed to read this book. It's a really good book. The book is really, at its core, all about getting our lives back to what's essential. And it's all about saying no, like all the things that we need to say no to in our lives because of the things that we've already said yes to. It's about figuring out what are those important yeses so that you can say no to the things that aren't important. And I realized as I read this book in a season, again, that I really needed to read it. And it's an ongoing thing for me. I'm sure many of you feel this as well in your own lives. But I realized that I had things that I had said yes to in my life that I needed to say yes to. There were things that I had said yes to, like I'm going to follow Jesus and I'm going to develop my relationship with Jesus and grow in my walk with Jesus. Like I had already said yes to being the best husband that I could be. I had already said yes to being the best father that I could be. And I had already said yes to a ministry of seeing people's lives change and investing in people through what I was doing. I had already said yes to some very important things. And so when it was tempting for me to say yes to some other things that were not these important things in my life, it was less tempting to say yes and easier to say no. And I discovered, there's more purpose, there's more joy, there's more fulfillment, there's more peace in all of these yeses that I need to say yes to than I will ever find in any other opportunity that could come my way. And I'm still learning. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still learning to say no to some things that I need to say no to. But for me, I am less and less tempted all the time to say yes for these reasons right here. Because compared to like the important things in my life that I've said yes to, my life with Jesus, my wife, my kids, my ministry, beyond that, I don't have to say yes to please people because people's opinions don't drive me anymore because I've got more important things that I've said yes to. And there may be things that could make me feel like I'm important in this life, but there's nothing in this life that could make me more significant than my wife and my kids and my life with Jesus. And there are a lot of other great things out there that I could be doing, right? A lot of other great things that I could be doing. But when I'm clear on what's important to me, I don't have to feel like I'm missing out on things. So here's my question to you. What are the things in your life that are your important yeses? You probably have some regrettable yeses, some things that you've said yes to here and there, and maybe even saying yes to right now that are would lead to regret or lead to packing your calendar full of things that aren't your important yeses. But there are also some things that you've said yes to that are amazing. There are some people that God has called you to. So there are some things that God has called you to do. What are those important things that you've said yes to? The things that you would find the most fulfillment, the most joy, the most purpose, things that you would find all of that stuff more than you would find it anywhere else. When you can clearly define those things in your life, it's going to be far easier for you to say no. To say no to pleasing people. To say no to finding validation in your life. To say no to, being afraid of missing out on things. Again, if you can figure out what your yeses are, you'll be able to say no. You'll be able to resist overcommitment. To resist filling your calendar with more things. To resist pleasing people. Again, this is just a tool, just like last week, it's just a tool for you to fight back against hurry in your life. And you're going to have to say no to some things that aren't necessarily people. A lot of times it's people that come along that we got to say no to. Sometimes you got to say no to things. There are countless things vying for your attention, requesting your commitment. Like think about your phone, for example. Did you guys know that on average, we touch our phones 2,617 times a day? That's the average. Did you know some people touch their phone close to 10,000 times a day? 2,617 times a day is the average number of times that you touch your phone, that you pick it up, you text somebody, you post something to social media, you scroll, you make a phone call. Here's one. Did you guys know that the average male, by the time they turn 21 years old, has spent 10,000 hours playing video games? The average male, by the time they're 21, 10,000 hours. Did you know that the average American citizen spends 705 hours a year on social media? Here's crazy. You guys ready for this? Did you know that the average American watches 2,737 hours of TV a year? And don't get me wrong, I love the convenience of our technology. I would certainly not want to go back to the 50s where we're washing laundry by hand and, vacuuming our floors, and I love Roombas, and that's all. I love that stuff. I don't want to go back in time. But if you think about it just from the perspective of your phone, every time you touch your phone 2,617 times a day, you're basically saying yes to your phone in that moment. And you're saying no to 1,000 other things. And we do this in a number of ways. What if we just reduced that number? I'm not saying we got to get rid of this stuff. I'm just saying, what if we reduced that number in our lives? Think about the impact that would have on your life. Think about the impact that would have on your soul. So whether it's people, whether it's products, whether it's your phone, whether it's priorities, whether it's projects, we got to figure out how to say no. And I've got just 3 quick suggestions for you on how to say no in your life. First of all, this is really kind of the point of today. First of all, make a yes list. What are the things in your life that you can say yes to that are not regrettable yeses in your life? That you know you need to say yes to? What are the things that God's placed on your heart? What are the things that God has called you to? What are the things that are worth your yes? And if they're not worth your yes, then maybe you need to start saying no to some things. Second piece of advice, turn off your phone. Did you guys know this was possible? Did you know your phones can actually be turned off? If you don't know how to turn your phone off, there's this really cool thing called Google. Touch your phone like 30 times and type it into, how to turn off my phone, and then turn it off. I also suggested last week, don't get in the longest line when you find the longest line. I'm not suggesting that you get in the longest line at the store so that you can pull your phone out and get on your phone. I'm not suggesting that you get in the longest line at the stoplight so you can, when you pull up to the stoplight, you can get out your phone. I'm not suggesting that you drive the speed limit so that while you're driving slower, you can text and drive. That's not what I'm suggesting. Turn your phone off. If you're saying yes to your phone 2,617 times a day, find ways to intentionally fight back and say no. For me, several months ago now, I was at a conference, and in one of these breakouts at this conference, I had a guy suggest, hey, stop charging your phone in your bedroom because it's just too stressful. Like, it's causing anxiety for us to have our phones close to us all the time. And so I came back from that conference, and literally since May 1st, my phone has been charged in our living room. As I retire to our bedroom for the night, my phone goes on the charger in our living room. And then when I go to bed, I'm not like at 3 a.m. waking up going, I wonder if I've missed any important texts or important emails. I wonder, if anything's going on. And the really cool thing, I'm telling you, this has begun to change a lot of me. I'm not starting my day on my phone anymore. It's not the first thing I pick up anymore. It's been great. So find ways to turn off your phone. If that's really hard for you, start with just a few minutes. And then try and build that up to more time. And by the way, if that just makes you super anxious because what if I miss an urgent call or text or an emergency or whatever, did you know 99.99% of the things that come through on your phone are not urgent and not an emergency? And in most of those cases, somebody would have another way of getting a hold of you. Did you know that? Turn it off. And then finally, resist the temptation to explain. Now, in order to set this one up, I want to tell you about the beauty of the unexplained no. And before I tell you about the beauty of the unexplained no, I just want to tell you, I'm terrible at this, but I'm going to give you the advice anyway because it's fantastic advice. You ready? When you get an invite, typically what happens when you get an invite to something, what do you do? If it's something that you can't be at or you don't want to be at, what do? You say, no, I'm sorry, can't be there, whatever. And then we give sentences and sentences of I got this going on, or I got this going on. It sometimes leads to a paragraph. We just explain, right? Why do we do that? The reason that we do that is because we're trying to lower the disappointment of the other person, right? But here's the reality. That person is going to be disappointed. And here's why. Because whatever they're inviting you to, whatever they're requesting you be a part of, the reason they're inviting you is because they want you to be a part of it. They're excited about the possibility of you being a part of it. So any no you give them, whether you give them an excuse or not, is going to be disappointing. So here's how the unexplained no works. Are you ready? You get an invite. Somebody invites you to something. They ask you to do something, be a part of a project, whatever. You get this request. You reply to them, no. I was hoping that would be funnier than that moment. Anne Lamott, she has this quote. She says, Americans need to learn that no is a complete sentence. Not, hey, I'm not sure about that. Can I have a couple days or a few weeks to get back with you on that? Well, I don't know if I can do that because I can't do that because I got this going on. Just politely say no. Now, here's the thing. I don't want all of you to go out there and start destroying all your relationships. There are a lot of things that you need to say yes to. Don't get me wrong. There are some good things that come your way that you might say no to that you need to say yes to. But because I don't want you to just send back a no and destroy all your friendships and all your family relationships, I'm going to just kind of give you some helpful responses. Are you guys ready? You get that invite, you respond, unfortunately, I am unable to, period. And then stop talking. Or how about this one? I cannot be there. Sorry to miss, period. Now, just real quick, if you don't want to be a part of this thing that you've been invited to and you're not in fact sorry to miss, don't lie and say that you're sorry to miss. Maybe instead you could perhaps respond with something more along this line. I'm unavailable that day. Thanks for the invite, period. I mean, even if it's a thing that you don't really want to go to, you can still be grateful, right? You can still say, thank you for inviting me. You can be grateful that people actually want you to be a part of their lives and actually invite you to things. You can still be kind and give an unexplained no. But what do we do? Well, I'd love to be a part of that thing, but if I do that, then I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with my kids. And then if I do that, then I've got all this stuff, and I got to rearrange my schedule for that day, and then I got to think about all the other things I was working, right? We just go on and on and on. How about we just say, hey, no, thank you, I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great time, but I'm not going to be there. So those three again, make a yes list, turn off your phone, and resist the temptation to explain. Just leverage the beauty of that unexplained no. This list right here, again, just like last week, just some things to help you fight back against hurry in your life. Just some things to help you fight back when you recognize, hey, I'm busy, I'm overloaded, I'm overcommitted, and maybe there are seasons where you're not busy and overloaded and overcommitted, and you can say yes to those things. But when those things are happening in your life, these are just some tools to help you fight back against hurry creeping in. Because the more that hurry is present in our lives, the less that God is present, and the less capable we are of living a life that follows the way of Jesus. So, piece of advice number 1, slow down. And piece of advice number 2, say no. And I will give you part 3 of our pieces of advice for your hurried life next week. So make sure you're here for that. We're going to close with a song together today, and I'm going to pray before we do that. But we're going to close with the song that we sang earlier, just about making room. Intentionally saying no to things to make room for more of God in our lives. That's what we're going to sing about together today. So I'm going to pray, and then in just a moment, I'll invite you to stand and we'll sing together. God, I'm grateful for that chance we have to learn to say no. I'm grateful that there are things in our lives that we can say yes to that help us to say those no's in those moments when we need to. God, I pray for that person that's in this room that is feeling overcommitted, perhaps is feeling overwhelmed, busy, stressed, anxious. For that person that might be feeling like the fruit of the Spirit that's incompatible with hurry is being rotted in their life, I pray that you would just make this message real for us, but not just make it real. I pray that you would give us the courage to actually fight back against hurry when we first start feeling it creep in. I pray this week for myself and for others that if somebody pulls out in front of us on the Belt Highway this week and drives under the speed limit, that we would be reminded in that moment, hey, this is an opportunity to fight back. When we're feeling like we're overwhelmed and stressed and there's just too much, I pray that you would remind us in those moments, hey, this is an opportunity to say no and not add, but to focus on the things that are most important. Pray you would help us to make room for you in our lives this week. We love you, Jesus. We pray it all in your name. Amen. Let's go ahead and stand and sing.
Where I lay it down, every burden, every crowd. This This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. Every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to, do whatever you want to, Lord. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to.
We surrender. Have your way, Jesus.
Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my traditions. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition. Break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to.
Oh, man. It's a good message. It's a good reminder that it's okay to say no to certain things. I'll be honest, whenever Ben started speaking, and I could kind of see where it was going, and he was encouraging us to say no, I was like, oh, I just asked them all to serve. But it was definitely clarified later on that it's good to say yes to some things, and making a difference is one of those things that should make your yes list. So I still want to encourage you guys to do that, and a reminder of that this week. Hey, listen, hope you guys have a great week. Hey, I want to give you a little sneak peek though. Next week, you want to be here early, because we have a little back to school fun that we're going to do at the very beginning of service next week. We need your guys' participation. So looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great week.